What is up, Nittany Nation? We're back. It's January 4th. The portal's open. Players are leaving. Players are coming. Let's break it down. Let's get into it right here, right now with We Are PSU Sports Talk. There's a lot to go over. We've had a lot of changes. We've had a lot of people leave the university. I just want to start off by saying I have no ill will towards any of the players leaving. Now that we're a couple days into the portal era opening, you can kind of see why those players had to leave the university. It almost seems as though their spots were guaranteed to other players, which, again, I have no issues with. I want to see everyone be successful. If you're in a Penn State uniform at some point in time, even if you choose to leave, I want to see you go be great somewhere else. Ideally, I do want the best group of guys out there on the field as possible, so we can be competitive and so we can bring back a national title that we haven't had since the stinking 90s and the 80s. But yeah, let's get right into it. So obviously, I think the biggest departure that we've seen is QB1 Ethan Grunkemeyer, which reports came out last night. It appears as though he is going to reunite with James Franklin over there at Virginia Tech, so kudos to him. I think that kid's going to be a stud. I really wanted to retain him. I see now why we didn't retain him, bringing in a couple of the Iowa State quarterbacks. I think we're going to be just fine. I think he's going to be just fine. I will just put this out there. I do want to see James Franklin allow him to throw the ball because he, to me, is a Tom Brady-esque type quarterback. He's a gunslinger. He's a game manager. If you put the ball in his hand and you trust him, I think he's going to produce. Hence why I personally wanted to see him stay in the blue and white. Unfortunately, it just wasn't in our cards for us. On that note, let's discuss a little bit about Rocco Becht. He is someone who I like to an extent. I personally didn't want him to be our QB1 next year, but I'm fully behind the move. I actually live in Wesley Chapel, and he was a high school quarterback over here at Wiregrass, so 5 minutes down the road. He's a stud. I think he's very talented. He had a couple of different issues this year with his shoulders, throwing and his non-throwing arm, which we just heard, I believe yesterday, that he just had a successful surgery or a successful procedure to help clear things up and help him recover. He should be fully ready to go come the start of the 2026 football season. That's good for us. There's been a lot of comparisons out there to someone of kind of stature, somebody I loved at Penn State as QB, Trace McSorley. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't see it at all. I watched a little bit of Landon Tangwell's video the other day of his breakdown kind of his footwork, of his decision making, of his awareness. I see a lot of potential in his entire process and how he dropped backs and how he looks through his progressions. And I think he's a great QB. He can really sling the ball. He has a quick release. Like Landon said, he pushes off that back foot very well to kind of get the ball out quick. But I just don't see the mobility aspect of it. I think people forget that, 2016? 2016 was our really big year. Trace McSorley was rushing for anywhere from 500 to, I believe, just under 800 yards. It might have been 790. He was a running dual threat passing quarterback. I do think Rocco Becht has a way better arm than Trace McSorley has. So that, I think, is going to be interesting to see how that plays out with our group. But ultimately, I don't really see the comparison there. I'd love for him to be a Trace McSorley. Trace McSorley was a gamer. He was a game manager. He was a conference champ. He was just a born winner. I love the fact that Trace has been retained on the staff to help coach the quarterbacks. I think that's going to be very beneficial for Rocco Becht. Obviously, we also brought in their backup young guy, 4 stars, ranked top 10 in the class. So I'm excited to see how that develops over the next couple of years. I think the big thing for me, and it's just as a lifelong Penn State fan, it's just seeing everything play out. I'd like to see us become a passing team more so than a running team, but I know that's going to be very hard for us. For me, again, I have to see it. We have to go through the games. We have to see nice deep throws downfield before I commit to the fact that we are finally a passing team. I understand it's a new coach, it's a new scheme. It does take time. I mean, we're so used to the same old bland QB play for the last couple of years that I think for me, just seeing the product on the field is going to go a long way. It's going to hype me up a little bit more once I start to see those deep shots. So excited to see what we have there at QB1. Again, excited for Gronk over there. Go ahead and show out at Virginia Tech. Wish you guys nothing but the best. We also picked up Benjamin, who was the tight end from Iowa State. 37 catches, 446 yards, 6 touchdowns. Yard per catch last year was just a bit over 12, so I think that's going to be great to put behind somebody like Andrew. He's a really good blocking tight end. So I think our tight end room, while we lost a couple of guys, obviously Luke was a big loss. Didn't necessarily have as great a production on the field this year. Didn't really see the field. But we'll see what we can do. I think our tight end room is going to be just fine. I'm really excited for Rapile. I think he is going to be the next stud out of Penn State University. Obviously, we are trying to take that name tight end U. I think there's a lot to say there, taking that away from Iowa just because of the names that they currently have in the NFL. We have a lot in the NFL, but I'd like to see this next group produce to continue on that tradition that we've recently become over the last few years with producing tight ends. Obviously, we got a bunch of wide receivers. The wide receiver room, I think, is going to be one of our strong suits, actually, for next year. We kept guys like Tyseer Denmark, who I didn't see coming back. I thought he was going to go somewhere else where he could actually start and be a big receiver. I'm so glad he came back. He's going to be a stud. Don't even get me started on Kobe Howard. I think this guy, if he stays at Penn State for 3 to 4 years, because we know anytime they commit now, it's a 3 to 4 year commitment. It's not necessarily 4 years like it always used to be. This guy is shifty. This guy is crafty. This guy can... If you go watch some of the highlights on his... I'm going to call it Twitter. I know it's X, but if you go watch some of the highlights on his Twitter profile, he's cooking people. I mean, it doesn't matter who you were lining him up against. We had different cornerbacks start the year than we did finish the year. He is cooking every single one of those cornerbacks. And I think our cornerback room, the young guys are filthy. So I'm really excited to see how he produces. I do think, will he be wide receiver one? I hope so. Do I think he could be an extremely shifty guy across the middle in the slot receiver position? 100%. But we also have to take into the fact we're bringing in 2 Iowa State guys in terms of their wide receiver production. We're actually bringing in 3, but 2 of them I think will actually play this coming year. Kind of home run threats. But when I say home run threats, I say that kind of lightly because they don't have too many touchdowns. I think that's the big thing for me. I'd like to see a little bit more production in terms of touchdowns for the wide receivers. Yeah, I'm excited for the wide receiver room. I think it is deep. It makes sense as to why some of those young guys ended up jumping into the portal. But again, I'm still very excited for who we're bringing back. We brought back the guys essentially I wanted us to bring back. And then we're filling in the roster, not necessarily with starter talent, but with depth. And I think depth in the Big Ten, where it's a pound in your mouth football type of scheme, I think it is important to have the depth and be very deep within those positions, especially wide receiver, running back, tight end. Our running back room as of this moment is a little Obviously, we know we're keeping Martin. I think Martin is going to be stellar. I think he's going to be fantastic. He is the next great. I wanted to keep Smith, but I understand his situation and wanting to actually play and get more reps. So I actually encourage him to go somewhere else, and he is going to be a very good running back wherever he goes. Let's address, because I know you're here, you're listening, we're talking about people departing. I know it's about to come up. King Mac. When the audio was leaked, King Mac came out, seemed like a real big leader within that locker room. I think with some of the position changes going on and the coaching changes, I think things changed for him. I'm going to say this, and I'm going to keep it nice because I don't like to rag on the guys just because they are college athletes. But King Mac, I don't think was going to be a starter next year. He is very quick. He's very talented. He's a fantastic punt returner and kick returner. I do think in the tackling game, he was dragged a few games this year and couldn't necessarily get some of the running backs or wide receivers down. A lot of the games that we lost that were one possession games, we could not stop the run, even loading the box with our safeties. So I do think for me, having him go somewhere else and allowing him to be successful somewhere else, I do think it's important. I think our safety room is going to be just fine with bringing over 3 safeties from Iowa State. And now the big one is going to be Amari Campbell. So we've all seen he kind of feels disrespected that he wasn't paid what he thought he was worth. The only thing I'm really going to touch on in terms of that, because everybody knows I'm not big on paying the athletes millions of dollars, because you're coming to get a free, you're getting a scholarship, you're coming and getting a free degree. The money aspect, I think, is a different situation, but I will say this. I think his stats were a little bit inflated just because of the injuries, and I understand he played the most amount of snaps on the defense. That is fantastic. But I've said it on X before, or Twitter. Just because you have a lot of tackles doesn't mean that you are a stud star defender. Sometimes that means that if you're playing in coverage, which we were getting beat in games late by not being able to stop the run, and they were running it straight down our throats essentially, or they were throwing the ball all over us, especially across the middle with the tight ends or the running backs, and we were struggling to cover that. I think that's where a good portion of some of the tackles are coming from. And obviously, you had a couple of 10 plus tackle games early in the season against Nevada, FIU, things of that nature. Again, I think he is a phenomenal player. I think he is going to be very good. But I do think we should not allow players to hold teams hostage. And in that sense, I wish you the best. Go be great somewhere else. Go get your tackles. Go be a stud. Get yourself to the NFL. Get yourself paid. The next one we're going to talk about is somebody I really actually wanted to retain. He was probably my number one person I wanted to see come back to the team next year, was Chaz Coleman. And as things continue to play out here, it looks as though Chaz Coleman is also chasing a bag, which again, no disrespect to that. I expect the hustle. I respect the grind. But that's just not the type of people we like to see within a Penn State uniform. We like guys who absolutely bleed blue and white. And we, to be honest, we've retained quite a bit of people I didn't think we would. But the morale, I think, in that locker room, I think the leadership in that locker room is back. Things are ready to go. And I think we're weeding out some of that talent that was here more so for money and fame and things of that nature, not necessarily for going out, playing on the field as hard and aggressive as possible, and coming home with that W. I think that covers pretty much most of the big things. I don't want to get into some of the nitty gritty. Let's talk transfer portal just for a second. We've made, I believe it's 18 or 19 additions from the transfer portal, all from Iowa State. I see a lot of the comments online saying we're becoming Penn State, West Iowa State, or whatever. I just want to preference that by saying there are over 100 guys on a roster. You have to have backups. We saw this year, we've seen last year, we've seen years before that. Guys get hurt. It is crucial to have those depth pieces. We're not going and taking bottom of the barrel guys from Iowa State. We are taking their starters who will then come to Penn State and they will be either starting positions or great backup pieces that will allow us to be able to rotate and keep our team fresh. The Big Ten is a completely different animal than the Big 12. We know that it's smash mouth football, it's hard hitting football. So having those pieces there are very, very, very vital. And just another thing, just because I've seen it online, I know we're kind of bouncing all over the place a little bit. The transfer portal, once you go into the transfer portal, you can have a tag next to you that basically says do not contact. This does not mean these guys were compromised with or these guys were illegally recruited away from the school. The way the do not contact works is it allows the player to reach out to the school if there is a mutual interest there. You have to remember that these guys, anyone who's in college, was likely recruited, went through an entire 2-year process of being recruited. They have schools they wanted to go to, weren't being offered enough, or weren't being offered starting positions or even a backup position. They probably are already in connection with those universities. Most of these stars who jump into the portal also have an agent. There's a lot of gray area when you jump into the portal and we talk about transferring, things of that nature. Agents can technically discuss on your behalf if they're not talking to you. the same way a coach can reach out to your parent rather than talking to you if you're over the age of 18, and it's not a recruiting violation. So I'm just going to preface it by saying if you don't know, now you do know. There is a way to transfer schools without being illegally tampered with, as the internet will go crazy and say every time someone jumps in there with a do not contact clause on there. Um, Overall, I'm pretty excited. I think there's a couple big names that we are pursuing at the moment who are not from Iowa State, which I think once we get a couple of those commitments not from Iowa State, I think the fan base is going to go crazy because right now we have, 18 straight in the last 36 hours from Iowa State. Um, there is a pretty big running back from Ohio State currently visiting Penn State today. I would love to see that happen as a top 5 running back from one of the previous classes, 5-star. I don't necessarily think the past couple years that Ohio State's been very big on running the football well, and I think he could be a great addition to our running back room. Obviously, we don't know what's going to happen next year in terms of the rush and how important that's going to be for our team as it's been the last couple years as opposed to passing the football. But I think our O-line is going to be just fine. We brought back enough talent and we're bringing in some farm boys out there from Iowa State that I think our offensive line is just going to, I actually think it's going to take a big step forward. And I think we'll be fine. But again, there are some key pieces out there in the transfer portal that I think we are targeting right now. There's not too much going on with noise behind it, but I'm very excited to see how that plays out. And I just want to remind everyone our schedule at the beginning of next year is a very easy schedule, which will allow us to integrate some of these new pieces into our offense as well as coaching staff. We open up at home against Marshall, which I think if we're not playing some of the backups, we have a serious issue going into that season. We'll go then play at Temple. We'll be back at home for Buffalo, and then we go to Maryland, and then Michigan. Those 2 games I think could be difficult games for us, but ultimately with 3 kind of easier games to lead up into that, we should have a set roster and we should see pretty good progress throughout that. The rest of that year is going to be I think, winnable games throughout the year. I do see, for me right now, with the additions we've had, with the people we've lost, I do see a 10-2 season. That's why I'm eager to see who we're going to get outside of transfers from Iowa State to see where this team's taken to the next level. That's the big thing for me. That's what I'm going to be following the next couple of days. If you guys want to know more about the transfers, that's not necessarily where I don't break down film or do things of that nature. I just like to cover some of the key pieces coming in, key pieces leaving, and discuss my personal opinion on it. But I highly suggest checking out Landon Tangwell. No paywall, just Tangwell, baby. You all know that. He breaks down the player's film. It's fantastic. It's helped me learn as someone who didn't play football growing up as more of a track athlete and cross country. So watching his film has really helped me break down, oh, this will be a great get for us, or this may not be the best get for us, but we'll see and try it out. Overall, I'm pretty excited for the team next year. I think things are shaping up very well. I love that there was an interview with ESPN with Rocco Betch that said, I'm going to paraphrase it because I don't remember the exact wording right here, right now. But it said something about that Matt Campbell has changed, and he's excited to come play for him over here at Penn State. So let's see. Maybe he is going to be super aggressive. Maybe he's going to be a guy that takes us over that hump that we've been stuck at for the last 2 decades. I'm pretty excited for the future. I can't wait to see who else decides to join us or who else decides to stay. There's a couple more big names out there that haven't addressed that matter yet. But overall, drop a comment down below. Tell me what you guys think. Where do you think we're going? What do you think about us getting all of these players from Iowa State? Who's your go-to guy right now in the transfer portal? As always, it's We Are PSU Sports Talk. Make sure to follow, like, and subscribe, and check it out the next video. Have a good one, guys.